Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this second day of May. Appreciate you. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door. And the Wealth family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area of Endeavor Hospitality. Great places like BB's Market, where you can find a full-size custom bakery, butcher, and soon to be the Butcher's Cut Steakhouse. Welcome aboard, K-Bro. Kevin Brockway joining us today as well on the program. We'll be back to DeCourcy and Crowded Hoosier. K-Bro, what's up, man?
Good morning. Time is just flying by, Like I said, it's already May, and I guess, NFL draft is over, and you guys are going to be fired up about Anthony Richardson up there, aren't you?
Well, you would know Anthony Richardson. Speaking of, Kevin, K-Bro covers the Gators now, but because of that, you were covering Anthony Richardson, and I'm sure that at the end of last season, he was not thought of to be a top 4 pick by guys that had covered him, but that changed with the combine and with the meetings, and his stock just continued to rise.
I think we always knew that the athletic ability was there with him, and the fact that that was going to wow NFL teams, because as you know, NFL, some of this is drafting on upside, and Anthony Richardson certainly has that. Now, was he the most accurate throw in the world when he was in Florida? No. I mean, did he run enough to satisfy the fans? No. Was there an injury issue? There were, some thoughts that maybe that second game against Kentucky, he kind of took a shot to the ankle and wasn't quite the same after that in terms of, being willing to run more. There were, concerns about that. And there was some angst in the fan base because of the fact that, let's face it, he was 6-7 in his career as a starter here. He didn't necessarily light the world on fire, but at his best, the kid's got a rocket for an arm. He can run. He can, make plays with his legs. He can obviously elude the rush. And I think that's what the Colts saw. And listen, the Colts were just at about every game at the Swamp. They were really enamored with him. And, it just takes one team to fall in love with you. And the Colts, I think, were that team all along.
Well, it's going to be an interesting experiment, but I think it's one that's going to work out. We'll see. He has to navigate the waters of becoming an NFL quarterback, which that's tough. We've seen a lot of guys that were great college players, but could not make that jump, because it is a jump. I don't know how I can equate it for the average person. Why being a college football quarterback is no easy thing. And I'm not saying that at all. Being an NFL quarterback is just that much harder. It's the difference between being a doctor and being a nuclear physicist, maybe. Does that sound better? Does that make sense?
I think there's a lot to process and there's a lot of information, but with Shane Stricken, the new coach, and his proven ability to, develop Jalen Hurts, I think that's what they're banking on in terms of, bringing this guy along. And you've got Gardner Minshew in the wings, in case he's not ready. And Gardner Minshew could maybe start from game one. I still think you don't necessarily throw him in right away, but I guess I read somewhere where, Jim Irsay was weighing in and saying that, he's not going to gain experience by sitting on the bench. And I don't know if that's the right move, but I do know this. I know that, he's a humble kid. He's a hard worker. He's gonna, put in the extra time. And, that's the thing. it's kind of like if you love football, right? And I mean, do you love football or do you love being a football star? And I think this is a kid that loves football. So I think that's a good first step, and someone that, is going to put in the extra time to, work on and refine his game kind of to suit the NFL level.
Yeah, as far as whether or not he'll start and all of that, I think that the summer and fall camps are going to determine that. I know that Jim Irsay wants him to get indoctrinated as fast as possible, but like you said, there's a degree of difficulty that you don't want it to be buried right off the start. You have to be able to swim and not drowned. But that's what the camps are for, to determine if he is capable of handling that. So we'll find out. Looking forward to it. So, and May is a busy month here. And that's not even mentioning the fact of talking about basketball, because basketball is every month out of the year, 12 months out of the year. So we've already have basketball stuff that we'll be talking about in May. Whatever it's more commitments, more people in the transfer portal, although Indiana only has 2 spots left. But this is Derby week, okay, bro? We're in the midst of Derby week, the Kentucky Derby. This Saturday. The Oaks are on Friday. Planning on being down there for that. Then, let's see. The Evansville IU Alumni Association, they have a golf outing at, why am I drawing a blank? Oh, my goodness. Sultan's Run there in Jasper. Great course. We'll get that information up and out to you. If you're from the Evansville area or live in the Jasper area, they have an event coming up that is on May 15th. And if you wanted to play on that, that is incredible. But then it continues, K-Bro, because Carb Day comes up. That's toward the end of the month, of course. And then the Indy 500 on the 28th. Oh, on the 30th, Indiana Sports Beat Radio joins the lineup on 1380 The Fan in Fort Wayne, pick up another affiliate. And then the next day, the Hubers event, which I believe, we went to together last year, I think. That takes place again on the 31st. And we're still waiting to have all the details for that, for those of you. But tickets are going to go really fast. I do know that. Ticket prices are going to be the same. It's $50 a person, $1,000 a table. And some exciting changes about that coming up to announce soon as well, as soon as we get the go-ahead for that. But that's on the 31st. So May is a busy month. Then you get into June and the heavy AAU season continues. I didn't mention the AAU that goes on in May. We've got 12th through the 14th. I believe they're in Dallas. The EYBL guys are in Dallas. I'll have to check to see where the 3SSB guys are. But May is just a unbelievably busy month, which is good.
Yeah, no question. And I think that too, that what do you make so far of the offseason for Indiana basketball and for Mike Woodson, and what they've been doing in terms of the transfers they've gotten and maybe some of the transfers they've missed out on?
You know what? I think more has been made of the misses, because I'm starting to wonder, with both of those guys going to Tennessee, I'm like, wow, that's a little unusual. And they're in the running for yet another guy. So I don't
the
know
kid
if
from
it's
Penn, Dingle. What's the latest on him?
Well, I mean, that's someone Indiana is definitely chasing. And I think that they're in a better shape now to land him maybe than they were to land the other guys. But with having their roster filled except for these spots, you got 2 spots left, and they're telling them, hey, man, we're holding – this is we're holding this spot for you. And I think that's a better sell now, that we're holding this spot for you. We need you in this spot. We need you here. Maybe that's a better sell to go along with everything else, in addition to Mbako, who they're trying to get. Can you imagine if they were able to land Mbako and Dingle, then everybody's rejoicing and dancing in the streets. So I think Indiana's going to be fine. Like I said, there's still time left. There's still time left before the portal closes that you can enter it. And you can still transfer, but I think most of that stuff's going to happen before the end of May.
I guess
That's another Oregon, talk about a busy month. That's another part of the busy month. I think everything, the big parts are going to be done.
The transfer portal, in basketball and even football too, right? If Tom Allen can get a few kids, but is the kid from Oregon, where I guess he's a 5-star talent, but there's been some questions about his work ethic. Are they going to ship him up, straighten him out, or what do you think?
Well, since I don't know that to be a fact. So if he wants to play, another thing about this Indiana team that is different, that I think is going to make it better, is there's one guy that is guaranteed to start right now that I'm aware of. And I would think that would be Xavier Johnson.
Trey Galloway?
If Trey Galloway's starting, I wonder how good Indiana is. That you need a guy in that position that can frickin' score. Your number 2 is your shooting guard.
Yeah.
He's got to be shooting. That's the first part of the position. Shooting guard.
Well, you could play 3 guards, 4 guards. I mean, I think eventually Woody's going to want to play, 4 out, 1 in, 4 out. I mean, I think that's eventually how he wants to play. So, I mean, you could play Galloway as a 3rd guard, as a swing guy, right?
It's yes, and Mike Woodson has shown his penchant for sticking with veterans. So, other than who comes in, that would be the only thing I could see knocking Trey out of a starting spot. But again, I'm not. I don't. Fans look at it as fans of the players and whatnot, and well, Trey deserve. I don't. I'm like, hey, you want to win? Do you want to be the best team? Do you want to be elite? Then you need elite. You need to be elite. Were you elite? Are these guys elite?
They need a scoring guard. I agree with you, and they need a little more athleticism on the perimeter. I mean, that's a key, but. Malik Renew also, they need him to make a jump and not foul as much also.
Well, they need that's another thing. They need all these guys to make a jump. And there's no reason for them not to. Malik Renew played a lot and well last year, but played like a freshman as well. A lot of fouling, would get into foul trouble, but he's got so much upside. And if he takes a move up, man, there's improvement. You've got guys like Caleb Banks is a big unknown, because I think he's going to take a move up. He's got too much want to not. CJ Gunn, I know he can shoot the ball. I've seen him do it. Then we've got guys Indiana has guys coming in. Gabe Cups, Zakai Newton, which you don't want to count on. It's hard to count on freshmen, much less if they're a 4-star or less, which I'm not into this is not about star ratings, but if they're not an elite guard coming in, they're generally not going to make that jump that quickly. Not that he won't play, but the word is that he's just a really good knockdown shooter. Hey, man, if you're a confident guy, I don't give a crap if you're coming from high school to college. You hit some shots, and that confidence continues to go.
Who's the knockdown shooter, Newton or Cups?
Cups,
okay.
And Newton he's a physical specimen. I mean, this dude, he looks like, you know how they show all these pictures of when the players come in, and then when after Cliff Marshall gets a hold of them, how they look when he's got them all ripped up, how I look now. Yeah. This guy's more than that already. He's the after picture already. He's just.
They need athleticism. I mean, that was
absolutely
that was apparent in the Miami game. They couldn't keep them in front of them, so you need guys that are going to defend on the perimeter and against those quicker, more athletic teams. And that's a bugaboo for a lot of Big Ten teams, not just Indiana. I mean, Purdue has been exposed in that in the tournament for years, and I think that you get more athletic on the perimeter. That's going to go a long way, offensively and defensively, in getting a little further. I mean, listen. All fans are entitled to his progress. Year one, Woody got him to the tournament. Year two, Woody won a tournament game. Now, you had Trace Jackson Davis, who was a special player. But maybe, if you build more depth, you get more athletic, and you play more the style he wants to play, maybe make another step forward, or win a Big Ten championship.
We'll find out. Hey, we got a lot coming up here on the program today. Thanks for being with us. K-Bro is along for a while. We've got Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Chronic Hoosier will join us. Plenty to talk about. We'll be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the Hey, my, rock and roll will never die.
Did you see that Gordon Lightfoot died yesterday?
Oh, he did?
No.
One of the great Canadian folk singers, yeah.
No. Did he go down on the Edmund? Did he go down on the Edmund
Fitzgerald? Oh,
did he go down on the Edmund Fitzgerald?
I knew he was going to do that. I knew he would.
Jim, if I could read your mind, Jim,
And I knew Mike knew it before because he just had his hands in his face in his hands. I knew he knew what was coming.
Did he go down and I was out?
Mike, how about those Pirates, huh?
How about that? Yeah, my brother.
Jolly Roger.
I spent the weekend with my brother in Florida. He couldn't talk about anything else, just about.
Where were you in Florida?
Naples.
Ah.
Okay, what is it with Indiana people in Naples?
Well, my brother's from Pittsburgh, so I don't know.
It's the I-75 corridor.
Okay, because there's
Tampa.
and I know there's a lot of other people there, but I don't want to say on air or who I know is there, but there's, yeah.
Well, in my trips to Florida,
it's a great place.
I lived there for 4 years. I worked for the Naples Daily News from 99 to 03. Yeah,
that's a beautiful town. Absolutely,
it's a great town. Naples Pier. I ran a half marathon there 20 years ago. Yeah.
Whoa! What?
Yeah.
You back ran a half marathon?
Yeah, back when I was younger and skinnier. Yeah, back in 2003.
Hey, I was younger and skinnier. That's the one thing I hated in sports was long distance running. Always. Me and my brother were like this. Yeah. I played football. I ran track, but I was a sprinter. I ran 110 hurdles. Everything I did was the relay, sprinting. And he played soccer and ran cross country.
I used to have to cover the
he was an idiot every day.
Our paper sponsored it, and so I used to have to cover it every year. So to get out of covering it, I actually ran it. So that was kind of
wow. I don't know. Somehow running it would be more painful.
I told my brother every day, I said, "You're an idiot." No, I don't know what it was, but then I remember in track, I was in 8th grade.
Yeah.
My track coach came to me and said, "Hey, I need you in the 3-quarter today." And I'm like, "What?" He said, "I need you, man. I need you." And we were pretty close. And I ran it. I said, "Don't ever ask me to do that again."
With Dr. Hops' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this beautiful Tuesday, which it's not supposed to be beautiful according to my forecast, but it is right now. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here. Jim Coyle with you, joined by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. K-Bro is with us as well. How are you, Mike?
I am doing well, but our off-camera discussion about long-distance running reminded me. It reminded me of the trauma of losing an A in 9th grade health on the last day of school. When our gym class had run the mile, I was off. I was sick that day. I don't know what I had, but I was sick. So I never did it. And then you were supposed to make it up, and I never did. And then a few of us were sitting around the last day of school. They weren't really teaching anything. We were kind of busting each other's chops. And the one guy let slip that he knew that I hadn't ever made up the mile. And the health teacher was also the gym teacher, who was a huge long distance running guy, busted my grade down a grade, even though it wasn't even the same climb. How about that?
That's wrong.
And yet somehow I managed to build the career that I have, even with that B in health. So
it's amazing. It's amazing that did not just ruin everything.
It could have destroyed everything. It went on my permanent record, though.
But me and long distance running do not have, and have never had a relationship. I was in the off air. I was telling in sports, everything I did, football is sprinting. Track, I was sprinter. Everything I did was sprinting. There was no sport that I played that you had to constantly run. I wasn't good enough to make our basketball team because we were pretty good. So thank God I didn't make the basketball team because I can remember the last day of just playing rec basketball and saying, I will never play full court basketball again. I remember the day. I am not kidding. I remember the game I was playing in at some church. I was like, that's it. It's over for me.
Wow.
And then long distance running, my brother, he played soccer, ran cross country. I played football and did that stuff. And I was just, no. I was like a girl that sings Rehab. They try to make me run long distance, and I said no.
Little Amy Winehouse there. Yeah, why not?
There you go, little Amy Winehouse. But yes, I don't know. I think the most I ever ran was like 2 miles on the beach in one. That's just nothing. I'm like, why would you want to run 10 miles? I'm like, that's just too far to go. I can drive there in 2 minutes. Oh, man. Hey, how about Major League Baseball? We were chatting about that because we've got a Pirates fan. I know that we've got tons of Cardinals fans out there listening. I'm a miserable Reds fan. But the only people that can be celebrating, and what the hell is going on in Pittsburgh at 20-9, and the Cardinals in the basement, 10 games back already. That's crazy. I mean, never are the Cardinals in the basement. They may be in second. They may drop to third. But, man, dropping to the basement, I don't remember when I've seen that.
It's been a strange season so far. One wonders whether it ultimately will turn itself back to normal. But it has been a really strange season. The Dodgers are mediocre. The Milwaukee Brewers are hanging in there, but not what they were a year ago. And you mentioned the Cardinals and what a disaster that's been to date. And then you see teams like the Pirates just tearing it up. Hard to explain or to understand for sure. And that's not any different in the American League. The Yankees are in last place in their division. I mean, a year ago, Aaron Judge is hitting balls out of Yankee Stadium, and now they're 15-15. It has been a very strange start to the 2023 baseball season, without a doubt.
And the Rays, too, down here in Tampa have had an amazing start to the year also. And I think the younger teams are benefiting from, these rules changes, from the shift and the bigger bases.
I was going to ask, what has been the change?
Yeah.
Is it the players or just they're we see the transfer portal going on right now in college sports.
Yeah.
But in pro sports, there's usually not that many changes that can make that much difference. So what is making this difference?
Yeah. The pitch clock, I think that, and I think just the more speed in the game. I think the younger teams are taking advantage of that more to the extent. And I think some of the veteran teams, older players maybe playing at that pace is not quite, the same or something that they're accustomed to.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how much the game has changed in such a short period of time. I mean, because literally 2 years ago, teams weren't running at all. If you bunted, they would scream at you that it was terrible for the game, that it was dumb math and all of that. And I mean, I see guys squaring around to bunt all the time now. And they're bad bunters. I mean, they still haven't gotten there to where they understand how to do it, but they're still doing it. Bunting has returned to the game at a high level. I mean, I've seen teams in late game situations that get first and second on, and they just need to get the run home from third to win a tie game or to take the lead in a tie game, bunting the runner over to second and third. And I mean, I'm totally serious. A year ago, 2 years ago, if you did that, the math people would scream at you that you were idiotic. I mean, they would just absolutely ream you. The analytics people would tell you that that's terrible baseball. You're giving up outs. And how quickly the game has changed back in that direction. And the rich teams ultimately will figure that out, and they'll buy up all the speed guys. But right now they're behind the times. So they're not taking advantage of that in the same way that the others are.
The Oakland Athletics, soon to be the Las Vegas Athletics, which it's kind of wild because Billy Beane, famously rode that train out in there. But who's to blame them? I feel bad for Oakland because they're losing all of their sports. But is that a good move for baseball? It's definitely a good move for the Athletics.
Yeah, I mean, the Coliseum in Oakland is so out of date that it has to be replaced. And
is it the same one that Raleigh Fingers played in?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's the same one
Oakland
that
Alameda.
Yeah, Kenny Stabler played in, and it's completely out of date in both sports. The Steelers played there in 2018, I think, and Ben Roethlisberger got hit and his ribs were injured, or I think it was his ribs. They couldn't find an X-ray machine to take an X-ray. I mean, this is 2018 that it happened. So I understand that.
College teams have all that stuff.
Yes, of course. You have to have that stuff in modern sports. And I don't know enough about Oakland real estate to know whether it was feasible for that to be, taken advantage of. To be able to find a way to work a reasonable deal. But I'm not surprised that given the fact that attendance has dwindled and all of that they looked for another alternative and that alternative would be Vegas. Now, Vegas still isn't a huge market. I mean, it's not small, but it's not enormous. So whether they can support a hockey team, a NFL team, and a baseball team, I think remains to be seen. But certainly there's enough money there to build an attractive stadium, and maybe they can survive on new A's fans, presuming they call them the A's when they get to Vegas, and as well as
man, that would be disappointing. I can't stand when people change the name.
Can't change the name, man. Can't from Philadelphia to Kansas City to Oakland and to Vegas. They have to keep the name.
Well, you know what? It would make sense. If they call them the Las Vegas Aces, that would really be.
They already have a Las Vegas Aces. Don't forget, there already is a Las Vegas.
No, they're the Reno Aces. They're the Las Vegas Aviators.
No, I was talking about the women's basketball. The NBA team is the Las Vegas Aces. Yeah. So
wow, that's a great name. That's a great name. So that's then good. Maybe they won't change it.
Yeah, I was in Vegas, for the bowl game when the Gators were in the bowl game. I mean, and the Raiders Stadium is beautiful. I mean, they really did a terrific job with it. And I think with baseball and with football, they're just counting on the tourism too. You talk about the market.
I was getting ready to say, Kevin, it's a great
you
point.
Can go out there and watch a game and be in Vegas for a long weekend.
Yeah, that was the
Mike. You were talking about the not having as big a market, but they have a constant influx of visitors, unlike any other market, minus LA or something like that, which doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Reds fan, the Reds get a weekend series out there. You go out there, you see the Reds game, you see Elton John play. Well, Elton's not anymore, but let's say Adele is there, and you see her residency, and then you do a little bit of gaming, and it's a pretty good weekend.
I didn't even think of that. My gosh, what a great reason to go to Vegas. I'm gonna go out and see the Reds and the A's play. I almost called them Oakland, even though it was in Vegas. But seriously, that's a hell of a weekend. Hell, it's a hell of a 3 days during the week if you can get away with. But they're going to offer something that nobody else has. So that's going to be, I think that'll go over great. Baseball fans are bigger than anybody else about making the sojourns to those places, the different places. And I think that's going to work out very, very well for them.
Yeah, I think it from that standpoint, it's a very attractive proposition, and like I said, even though the market's not huge, both all three of us clearly agree that tourism will help inflate that or elevate the attendance numbers for the Las Vegas A's whenever that happens. I think it's 3 years down the road or so. That it'll probably work out very well. It hasn't worked out for Tampa Bay. I mean, as many people as visit Florida, they don't seem to be inclined to visit Tampa to watch their team get pummeled by the Rays. But I think part of it as well, when they design this stadium, and it'll obviously have to be have an indoor component to it, if not be full-time indoor. When they design that stadium, part of it is the design of the stadium. I think going to particular places like Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Yankee Stadium, the appeal is not only going on the cool trip, but also the park really makes you feel like you've had a great night. And I'm not sure that happens in Tampa quite so much.
Well, you don't have the summer tourism in Florida the way you do the winter tourism, and also the geographic. It's not in the geographic center of the metropolitan area. That's been the big issue. It's kind of in the south end of St. Petersburg. It's actually closer to Sarasota than it is to downtown Tampa. So the next ballpark they're going to try to build, I think, in Tampa, closer to the geographic center of the Metroplex.
Yeah, sooner or better. The sooner they build that, the better, because it's a great, it's a great franchise that deserves a better home and better support, obviously.
Yeah.
And we've seen the success the Golden Knights had with the hockey team when they went to Las Vegas. Plus, it will give more money to the A's, allowing them to not charge the players for Coke. So they still doing that? We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Mike DeCourcy is with us. K-Bro is with us. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether
who's doing his gala this weekend, Jim, is Dickie V.
You going? Are you going?
No,
Are you a big donor? Are you the big donor?
I'm in Tampa, but I'm not. No, I'm not going to go. I'm getting together with a friend of mine, but he invited me in 2009, and it was when Billy Donovan and Rick Pitino spoke, and it was not a dry on the house. A lot of pediatric cancer stories, and
trust me,
very well done. Yeah, I think last year they raised $11 million. Yeah,
I worked with Never Lose Hoop here with the Hulls, and it's the same deal with the stories. We don't raise that kind of money, but it's there's plenty of those out there that get you. Mike, what have you been working on, man?
I have a story coming up today about on the eve of the start of the Warriors Lakers series. I wrote in 2015. I wrote a column that said that the headline was something like LeBron James ends the debate. He's the greatest of all time or something like that. That was 2015. He's had another Hall of Fame career since 2015. The numbers are staggering. How many Hall of Famers, just the number since 2015 surpasses in various categories. It's astonishing. At this point, I'm amazed at how much resistance there is to LeBron's greatness. I don't totally, I understand it from certain viewpoints. I know why that it comes from certain viewpoints that are totally disconnected from basketball, but I'm surprised I hear as much pushback from people who are basketball people. I watched LeBron in that Memphis series, and I'm like, how are people still arguing about this? He's 38 years old, and he's still doing ridiculously good things.
I did see someone put up a tweet once that was a really good tweet. It had basically the hardware that LeBron had won and the hardware that Jordan had won, and they weren't that close.
Yeah, I mean, MJ's got the 6 titles and he's got 4, and I think that's part of.
And was it the MVPs? Was it 6 MVPs or?
I think MJ might have. I think MJ has 5 and he has 4. I think. I believe that the biggest total of MVPs belongs to Kareem with 6. MJ has 5 MVPs and LeBron has 4.
Here we go, guys.
That's right. It's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Tuesday, May 2nd. Jim Coyle with you as always here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, along with Kevin Brockway, and Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. All kinds of things going on right now. Basketball recruiting, of course, NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs. Speaking of the NHL, they had 3 straight back-to-back Game 7 series. They had 2 on the same night and then another one the next day. The first 2 massive upsets, or the one was a massive upset, with the Bruins going out after having the best record ever, regular season record ever in NHL season. But someone put a tweet that I retweeted that in the last 18 years, the team with the best record in the NHL has won 2 Stanley Cups. And nearly half of those went out in the first round. Which was shocking.
Yeah, I do think there's. I watched the overtime period of the Bruins Panthers series, Game 7 on Sunday night. I watched that, and after Florida won, it struck me: is there enough reward for the number 1 overall seed in the NBA and then NHL? I don't know that there is. I look at you look at Major League Soccer. You look at NFL, you look at Major League Baseball, all of their regular season champions, if you want to call it that, all of them get buys through at least some of the playoffs. In the NHL and NBA, you get 1 home game. That's it. That's all. That's your total advantage for having either the best record or, as was the case of the Bruins, the best record ever. I'm not sure that's enough of an advantage. I think that they should incentivize that position by granting even more of an advantage. The team like Florida that gets in and is lucky to get in. I mean, the Florida literally had to have the Penguins lose their game to Chicago on the penultimate day of the regular season to get in. They would not have gotten in if the Penguins had taken care of their business. The Panthers would have stayed home. So that team gets almost no disadvantage relative to the team that set records in terms of winning the regular season. I think you need more of an advantage, and maybe 5 home games to 2 or something like that. It just for that one team in each conference that is the one overall seed. They may or may not need it, but I do think that there has to be a better advantage for the team that does what the Bruins did.
Yeah, because not only did the Bruins go out that same night, the reigning champion, the defending champion, went out as well.
Right.
So I don't know, is that good for hockey ratings or bad? Because generally,
why do we still have these conversations, Jim? At the end of the day,
I meant for them. I'm just curious. That's just a curious question.
Mean, I don't understand why we obsess about ratings. And I work in television, and I understand why they obsess about ratings because that's how they make their money. But for the general viewer, I think it's a way of, it overlooks the competition in a sense. It doesn't end up making any difference to the viewer. There are going to be 2 teams, and there's going to be a game. Now, if you're a fan of a particular team, obviously it makes difference to you. If the Bruins are out, it makes a difference to you. But the game's still going to be on, and the NHL is very early in its contract with Turner and ESPN. So it's not going to make any difference to the NHL in the short term and probably in the long term, because there'll be opportunities down the road for the Rangers to play the Kings or whatever in some final. I think that we overemphasize this in sports conversation. It doesn't really end up mattering to anybody. The money is still exorbitant for everyone involved. The television networks, the team owners, and the players still make a ton of money. The sponsors are still eager to invest in their advertising space because live televised sports are the best value for the advertising, for the broadcast advertising dollar right now. They're the absolute best. So I just don't think it makes that much difference anymore, if it ever did.
I agree. The NBA going on as well, and we have a kind of a unique with the Lakers and the Warriors. Steph Curry and LeBron James going at it. 2 of the greats, all-time greats that will go down. Don't get a lot of these matchups very often anymore.
Well, I think we don't get as many of them maybe as we did during the period when you had Bird versus Magic, because the Celtics were so dominant in the East and the Lakers were so dominant in the West, and we had a bunch of those during the 80s. But when Michael was reigning supreme, we didn't have any of them because there wasn't anybody on his level. He didn't have a rival like that. I mean, Hakeem was a great player, a Hall of Famer without a doubt, and they played a few times in the finals, but there weren't that many intersections. Ultimately, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant emerged as a titanic force for the Lakers, but that was after Michael was finished.
Malone and Stockton, or what that would be probably the closest?
That'd probably be the closest that they had. Yeah, but I mean, those guys are all-time greats, but probably not even top 20 players. At least Stockton's probably in the 20 to 40 range, somewhere in there. Malone maybe 15 up, but maybe not. So it's not, with LeBron and Steph, we're talking about 2 of the top dozen players in the history of the game, and so we are blessed to get a chance to see something like that.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to that. But who do you think is? That's the one thing. There hasn't been a dominant team in the NBA this year. That one that people just said, oh well, that's going to be easy. Who do you see winning?
Wow, that's a difficult question.
I know.
Because it's kind of like this year's NCAA basketball tournament, and I was able to get Connecticut into the final in my initial bracket, and I'm gonna probably, even though I didn't pick them to win, I'm still gonna probably celebrate that for a while, because it was really hard to get any of the Final Four teams right this year. It's certainly unusually difficult in the NBA because we're looking at that series, and you look across the street, and Phoenix and Denver are playing, and all four of those teams are certainly capable of representing the West in the finals. And then you look at the East, and it's the same story. There's no obvious team. I think it's kind of good for the NBA to have that. With the Bucks out, their number one seed in the East is out. I think it makes the NBA playoffs maybe more interesting than they've been in a while, because we just don't know what's going to happen, and we certainly know all of the players. I mean, there are star players on every single one of the remaining teams. Even though the Lakers were the 7 seed, I mean, they've got LeBron and Anthony Davis. You look at Miami, and they were the 8 seed coming in, and they took out the 1, but they've got Jimmy Butler. He's one of the best players in the league. So it's a really compelling group of teams.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting that the Sixers are 5-0, and, they swept the Nets, and they won their first game in Boston. And you wonder, and Embiid has been in and out, but you've got Harden and you've got Maxey, the former Kentucky player, is playing really. Is this their time? Maybe, I'm wondering, are they a team that could, finally, and they've got a proven coach in Doc Rivers that's won a championship, and you wonder if this is their opportunity to maybe kind of seize the East.
Yeah, obviously, to do that, they're probably going to need Embiid to come back and be Embiid. Eventually, they'd need that. They were able to win last night against the Celtics without him playing, because Harden had a phenomenal night. The Celtics made an egregious defensive error on the final Celtics possession. The final Philly possession to switch defenders was ridiculous against Harden. There was no reason to do it. It was really Kyle Irving, one of our NBA writers, pointed out what an awful decision it was, because PJ Tucker, who was the player they switched on, had barely shot. So why would you worry about him as a threat in that situation? At that point, the whole goal is to make sure that Harden doesn't take the last shot, that it's not in his hands, and instead they allowed it to happen. And I thought that Horford did a good job of staying in the play, as good a job as possible, but Harden knows in that matchup that he can get the shot he wants.
Big Ten basketball is predicting, was not to say that it wasn't pointless before, but it's almost pointless now because of all the change. Like, I can look at Michigan State and say, yeah, they're probably going to be my favorite next year for a number of reasons. But outside of that, boy, it's going to be tough. Maryland, I'm like, wow, they seem to have a lot going on. We know what Purdue has coming back, but I don't think that they're going to be able to run roughshod with the same group over the league like they did next year. And then who else is going to surprise you?
If Purdue has Edey back, and
which I think that they will,
I do too. And if they have the 2 freshman guards now as sophomores, you don't think that team has a chance to become?
It should be better, yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to run roughshod over the league like they did, because I think the league is going to take, or coaches are going to take cues from what it takes to beat that team.
Well, but
you can't. Nobody's going to stop Edey.
Yeah, I mean but that's if those cues work next year.
Right. I mean, well, of course. That's what it takes to beat them. I'm not saying everyone will. I think that there's enough talent and that enough change that they will be able to do that.
That's what it took to beat them last year. But I think Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer will be better and more consistent.
Absolutely.
And I think
it's going to be tougher.
If you dare them to beat you next year, they will on more than their share of occasions. And eventually, and it's not like if you say you even teams that threw everything at Zach to beat them still gave up numbers. He's still going to get his. He's going to find a way to get his numbers. So you're limiting his impact to an extent, but you're emphasizing the perimeter impact of players like Smith and Lawyer. And I think that when that happens, they will handle it better. I mean, even Fletcher Lawyer in the Fairleigh Dickinson game had a really solid game, and one of Purdue's errors, was not recognizing that Fletcher was the one guy who had it that night on the perimeter, and didn't get him the ball often enough, and didn't get him shots often enough, because he was standing up to the pressure of the moment while other players were not. I think they'll be better equipped. I'm not saying that Michigan State won't surpass them, because I think Michigan State will be really good. I think it'll be a terrific battle between the two of them. I'm not sure whether there will be a third contender for that regular season. But I think those two teams have a chance to be exceptional in a way that other than Purdue last year, and Purdue by the end of the year wasn't quite that team that the Big Ten didn't have last year.
Hey, you want to take cues on how to handle Purdue? Just call Mike Woodson, right? 3-1 against them. I mean, that's the one guy who seems to know how to beat him and how to handle Zach Edey. I mean, he had a lot of success, and obviously had a great guard and who had a great game that day in Hood Schifino, but there's something to be said for that.
Well,
yeah,
I still scored 30.
Yeah, Mike's had some great ideas to deal with them, but he also had Trace and Jalen. So next year the challenge will be greater as his talent level diminishes a little. But he has done a terrific job going against the Boilers and in particular Edey.
And speaking of next year, Indiana, of course, still looking to finalize their roster with 2 more open spots. They have filled 5 of those, a couple of freshmen, 2 of those. But they've done a pretty good job on restocking. But the judgment is out with these final 2 spots, because these are the greatest need of all of those. And who fills those final 2 places will determine how successful this offseason was for Indiana.
Yeah, I think they still probably need one really significant player. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like your Hunter Dickinson or whatever, but somebody that has a significant track record of success, even at a low major level, but somebody that has shown that they're capable of scoring 15-plus points at any level, they're capable of making shots, preferably at a high level. That someone like that would really be helpful to the Hoosiers. They still need someone that's another player who's a proven scorer. Like I said, it could be even it could even be someone from the Northeast Conference, but someone who's proven that they can put the ball in the basket.
Well, they're chasing Mbako and Dingle right now, and if they were to land those 2, that would be significant. And either of those guys would actually be significant. 2 of those would be extraordinary. What is up next for you, Mike?
Yeah, I think I don't know if I said this on the air. We were talking off the air, but I just posted a piece on LeBron James about the fact that in 2015, I wrote that he had proven himself to be the greatest player in the history of the NBA. And he's essentially had another Hall of Fame career since that article appeared. The numbers that he's put up in that period since 2015 are staggering. The number of more points than a number of Hall of Famers just in those 8 years, more rebounds than a number of Hall of Famers. More finals appearances and championships than multiple Hall of Famers, including Dominique Wilkins and Charles Barkley. An amazing run since 2015. And you add that into the totality, and I honestly am surprised it's still an argument and that so many are so entrenched in their position in favor of Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan was staggeringly good, but For me, LeBron James has been the greatest player in the history of the game. And a lot of people think that it's that argument is a young people versus old people argument, the age argument. But I mean, I'm older than most.
You're proving that wrong. I was going to say, you're proving that wrong, baby.
You know, I do think that there is a large segment of people who grew up with or came of age with Michael being the Titanic figure that he was. I mean, he was phenomenal. And if that was your childhood or your coming of age professionally or something like that, then you might be more entrenched to that argument. For me, I mean, essentially, Michael is a contemporary. So it doesn't, you know, I don't have that, that feeling of the youthful argument. I grew up watching him and idolized him. I mean, Michael graduated from college or finished college about 3-4 years after I did. So they were about the same age. So I don't have that. I totally value him as one of the greats in the history of the game, without a doubt. But I just think that what LeBron has been able to do, and maybe more important, what he continues to do at age 38, just got done averaging 28.5 points a game. And isn't done because his team is still alive, starting a conference semifinal series right now, after he was the most important player in winning a very difficult first round series against the number 2 seed in the West, Memphis. So I think it's, I think it's an interesting argument, but I just think LeBron has won it, and I make the case for that. For me, the number one case that LeBron is the greatest is that he just keeps going in and making significant contributors out of players who are nobodies without him. You look at guys like Mo Williams back in the day with the Cavs, or Austin Reeves now, undrafted free agent in his second year out of Oklahoma, and he's been a transformational player in these playoffs to date. How does that happen? Well, it always seems to happen when LeBron's around.
How long has LeBron played now?
This is his 20th season. He has made the finals in more than half of the 19 seasons he's completed, which is another number that I think is too lightly regarded. Making the finals 10 times in this era is pretty amazing.
And how many years did Michael Jordan play?
I think Michael ended up playing. I think he ended up playing 15 or so. I don't have.
Did
that
he
number.
really?
Yeah, I think
that's
it was
what that. And then how? Because he was out for, was it 2 years? He was out.
Year and a half. He missed all of one season and then returned part of the way through the subsequent season. That team did not make the finals. They lost to the Magic in the playoffs when Penny and Shaq played there. Lost to that team, but then they began their run of the second 3 championships the following season.
Always a great debate, and it always will be. But make sure you check out Mike's latest piece at the Sporting News. Mike, I can't thank you enough as always, man. It's always enjoyable.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, K-Bro. Great to see you.
Good to see you,
Go Pirates.
Mike.
Go Pirates. They're rolling.
He's a Jolly Roger.
We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. K-Bros with us for another segment. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market.
Yeah, I can only do one more segment because I got a meeting at 10.
Yep. All right.
We'll break right before 9:50, so you should be good.
Good deal. What's this, Feast?
Feast, Market, and Cellar.
Oh, yeah. That's a great place to eat. What? Wow.
Wow, what?
Did Louisville's Malik Cunningham
Yep.
will enter the New England Patriots offseason program as the highest paid undrafted free agent in franchise history.
Wow.
But that's not a surprise. It's a quarterback. but they've selected a quarterback each of the last 2 years. Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi, who we saw at Western Kentucky, or at least I saw.
And Trace McSorley in free agency.
Yep.
Wow. Malik Cunningham's not a Bill Belichick type quarterback.
Did you go to the Indiana football spring festival or practice or whatever they had?
Festival.
$200,000 guaranteed.
What did they have for the Indiana football, or did they have anything or not?
They had a
Did he
scrimmage.
Go
I was not able to make it.
No. What's the latest with Tom Allen's crew?
Who's the quarterback?
Taven Jackson or no? Or Sorsby?
Why? I mean, what's he done? Brandon Sorsby probably has the best shot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's played okay. What's up next for you?
For me?
Yeah.
Well, no, I've got this meeting at 10. I got to do a story. And...
All right, here we go, guys.
And Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Tuesday, May 2nd. You missed Mayday yesterday, K-Bro. K-Bro with us, Kevin Brockway.
Mayday.
Today's May 2nd. Beginning of a very busy month in a myriad of sports, as I have mentioned, the Derby, the 500. We got Hubers this month. We start on the Fan in Fort Wayne this month. The Evansville IU Alumni Association's got an golf outing, May 15th at down in Jasper at Sultan's Run. See what else? Carb Day. What else? Anything else going on? There's all kinds of stuff. Rowley Burgess.
Are you going to broadcast from the Derby or no? Are you going to do a show from down there?
Yeah, planning on it. Absolutely. Planning on that. Rowley Burgess committed to Purdue.
Yep, saw that last night. Yeah.
I'm wondering if these guys at Purdue, wondering when they think that they're all going to play. Because here's the thing. Purdue's roster is full. Not that I care, but their roster is full of everybody they have are 3-4-year guys or 4-year guys. They don't have 1-year guys. They don't have 2-year guys. So if all of these guys are staying, when the hell do these other guys think they're going to play?
Well, you got to beat them out. I think that's the thing in practice. You got to,
Well, we just talked about they've got 2 freshman guards that are coming back that are going to be better.
Yeah.
So I here's what I don't get about what Matt Painter does at Purdue. Great coach if you want to win the Big Ten. I think that's his ceiling. I think that's his thinking ceiling. He's not trying. He is. You can tell he's not trying to build what I would call an elite team. He's just trying to build a team, which is fine. He's trying to build it how he wants it. But I think he's wrong that he thinks that that team can still compete at the highest level year in, year out.
Well, it depends on the kind of player.
And I think the record, but I think the record at Purdue proves it.
Yeah, yeah. But I think too that Carson Edwards was a pretty dynamic guy and got him far. Now Jaden Ivey was too, and maybe they should have gotten a little further with Jaden Ivey. I mean, they did get to the Sweet 16 with him. I think you need that. I think you need that dynamic guard to complement kind of the stock of big men. The guy that's the big mystery to me, who I thought was going to be really good there and who hasn't panned out so far, is a guy we saw up in Noblesville, the guy that was in Indiana Gatorade, Trey Kaufman-Renn. I mean, what's happened to him? Why is he not as dynamic as the player that we saw in travel ball in high school?
Again, I'm just going to go back to the same thing. There's only so many minutes. You have too many of the same players on the same roster. You've got Caleb First, who plays better than Trey Kaufman-Renn. You just have too many of the same guys in the same position. And then you have one Zach Edey. And they have a good team, a very good team. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. And they're going to be tough. But I do not see that as a team that can nationally make a deep run. Maybe I'm wrong.
I will say that says something for Matt Painter's culture that a guy like Trey Kaufman-Renn has not entered the transfer portal, because you would think if anyone would, that would be a guy that would want to go somewhere to get more playing time.
Everybody seems to be happy. It's a happy atmosphere. But when you recruit guys that don't have the mentality of being elite, of getting to that next level of, I'm better than this, I should be on that floor starting. Guess what you don't have? You don't have fighters. And I'm not saying anybody is or is not a fighter. I'm just talking in generalities. But you have to have guys on that roster, on that team, on that bench that think they're better than somebody else who is playing, because they damn well better be fighting for that spot. And otherwise, you could have a.
So do you think that's why a guy like Tamar Bates left, for example, why he went to Missouri?
I think there was a lot of reasons why Tamar left. His daughter he's got a daughter now that's, I think, stays in Kansas. So he is much, much closer. The offense that Indiana was running was not to his liking, but also at the same time, I don't know that he was developing. And I'm not blaming that on the coaches, or I'm not sure where that lies, but that development was kind of not there. And not sure of the offensive style that's going to be in play next year by Indiana. There were just a lot of reasons there for him, I think. But I think that came after conversations with the coaches as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought that was an interesting move for him to go to Kansas, because go to Missouri, because Dennis Gates, knowing him from down here in the SEC, he gives his shooters a lot of free reign, and Tamar was a guy that I think when he was at Indiana probably had a little questionable shot selection, right? And maybe took shots at bad times that he should not have, and is a guy that will probably get a little more rope in a place like Missouri than he would in Mike Woodson's system here in Indiana.
Absolutely. And I know that Indiana would like to, coming up in I've talked about this, coming up in the 24 class, in the 25 class, there are multiple Indiana players that Indiana desperately would like to have. Of course, Flory Badunga, the number 2 ranked player in the country right now, potential to be number 1. Then the following class, you've got Jalen Harrelson, another kid that's a potential number 1 in his class at a point guard position. So there are Trent Sisley, all these other guys that they're chasing, but there are guys coming up that are in a different level than some of these guys.
Who's visited
Jalen
Florida?
Harrelson.
Who's visited Florida quite a few times? Flory Badunga. He's been down here quite a bit. They got in on him early. Now, I'm hearing some rumblings about Cincinnati too, that they have a really good relationship with him.
That's always been the case because Mark Adams coaches him on the Indiana Elite AAU team. His son is an assistant coach at Cincinnati.
Okay.
So there's been a long relationship there. There's a family. Flory came from the Congo and stays with a family up in Kokomo. And I've mentioned several times, we don't know what involvement the family has. If they're just saying, hey, this is your total decision, if they're guiding him, if they have allegiance someplace, or how this one's going to play out, because he is a gigantic recruit. He's a game changer, and everybody wants him. At the Indiana 4A Finals state championship game, Calipari was there, Izzo was there, Bruce Pearl was there, Matt Painter was there, Mike Woodson was there. These guys, not that. How often is it for a high school state championship game? Do you see coaches of that many coaches of that level at a high school state championship game?
Yeah, no question. And he's a guy that's coveted by a lot of schools. But I do know that Florida has a relationship with him, and they feel like they've got a shot. Now, I don't know if the kid wants to go out of state or not, or if he wants to stay in state, or if he wants to be a big man on campus, because he won't get that here. I mean, basketball just isn't, the buzz is totally gone from the Billy Donovan era here. But I mean, if he just wants to go someplace where he's going to develop, maybe Florida has a shot. But I'm sure that's the one thing Indiana will have to sell, and Purdue and some of these other teams, is the basketball atmosphere and what you guys have up there in terms of, being, a guy and NIL too, which I think will factor into it, I'm sure, as well.
We absolutely will certainly see as they finalize these final two, try to finalize these final two spots. But I guess I think they're in better position now to do that because of what they have wrapped around it. And these guys can see what they would be coming into in totality now. They can see the complete picture as opposed to that incomplete picture before when the other spots were yet to be filled. But Indiana sits in a pretty good spot, and a prospective player has to look at that and think, yeah, that's not bad, man. They've got a pretty good roster set up. Then on top of that, you have all the things that are Indiana that goes with that. Playing in the Big Ten, it's Indiana. It's Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Just all the things that go with that. That's a pretty powerful. I think they're in their best position right now that they've been.
Well, here's the other selling point that Woody's going to have is, hey, look at Jalen Hood-Schifino, got him the NBA 1 year. You know what I mean? And getting people to that next level, which is something that, players want to know. They want to know, okay, can you get me to the next level? Can you get me to the NBA? And I think that certainly is a feather in Woody's cap at this point.
Absolutely. The kids are no doubt looking at that, and we'll keep an eye on that. What's up next for you, man?
Well, it's going to be kind of a slow up and down month. I'm going to be going to the SEC spring meetings in Destin, where they're going to talk about whether they're going to go to 8 or 9 games in football, which I know that's been a big, we would call
yes,
it
is. It's
topic.
bull crap. It's bull crap that they don't. I mean, they're playing 12 games now. Yeah. 12 games. And the Big Ten went to 9 conference games a long time ago. And when you have all these other conferences that they're playing 4 out of conference games, which means you've got people like LSU playing Troy or Alabama playing Troy and all this baloney. 4 games. You just have to win 2 conference games to be bowl eligible that way. It's a huge difference. And I think Penn State coach. The Penn State coach. What's his name?
Shrewsbury? Or, no.
No. Football.
James Franklin. Yeah.
Yes. Every year at Big Ten Media Days, he talks about this as a big thing because it matters when you're comparing the Big Ten and the SEC, so to speak. You're giving the SEC an advantage in that regard in a lot of ways. But college football, it needs to be the same. You cannot have 6 power conferences
that play different amount of conference games. That's just not conducive to me.
Here's another thing they're going to discuss, something that we've debated, the field storming issue, which, right now they're paying fines, but they're talking about possibly next time somebody storms the field, forfeiting a home game where they'll have to play 2 straight games on the road as a result of a team storming the field, which what do you think about that? What if Indiana stormed Purdue on the basketball court again and they said, all right, Indiana, for that, you're going to have to face Purdue twice on the road next year?
Well, I think it would be deserved, because I'm going to be in the minority of that now. I think you got to stop out. If you're a champion, you don't do that. Or if you're of, great pedigree. But these fans and students specifically, they haven't seen that. So I don't like it, but I get it. So, but we'll see. I think you have to stop it because it's become more of it used to be kind of a rare thing reserved for the true deserving events that deserve the court storming. Any big win gets that now. And I'm like, no. But man, well, I cannot tell you how much we appreciate having you on, and look forward to seeing you again soon, hopefully.
All right. Well, thank you. It was great to
enjoy
be on.
Enjoy that Florida sun today, my friend.
I will. Yeah, I'm getting some beach time in Tampa this weekend, so I'm looking forward to it.
Go to Whiskey Joe's.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll stop by there. Yeah, we're gonna do a Rays Yankees game, believe it or not. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Okay, bro. Kevin Brockway joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We got lots more coming up. Chronic Hoosier joins us right after this. Brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, located right off the square in Bloomington on 6th Street, or served in all the Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether it's
all righty. Take care,
Thanks, Kevin.
Man.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good morning, Chronic.
What up?
What's up, brother?
Another day in paradise. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Same. I'm looking out. I thought it was going to be a crappy day, and man, all I see is sunshine out the window.
It's because B-Town summer's on the horizon, baby. You can almost taste it.
You should be the permanent mayor.
I'm telling you, summer's the only reason my family's still in this town. We would have been gone decade plus ago, but for the fact I just love this town in the summertime.
Where would you have gone? Somewhere south, I'm imagining. Further south, at least.
I don't know. Probably south or northwest. Probably south. I did grad school out in Portland, Oregon. I went to law school out there.
Did you really?
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. But
when were you out there?
Early 2000s.
Well, it is not the same place, my brother.
Oh, I know. Trust me. We were there at the height of the tech boom when, all the cool cats were fleeing Seattle because it was becoming too overrun with hipsters. And then, they came to Portland, and then it turned everything upside down and made it way too expensive to live. And it grew the environment that's led to, the mess that it is now.
It is certainly a mess out there. What's new with you?
Not a thing, man. Just limping towards this graduation, ready to get the kids out of school and get into that summer rhythm.
I'm definitely ready for some warm weather.
Yeah, it'd be totally fine if we could put the jackets up for good here.
What do we got today? Yeah, it's going to get up to 60. Damn. That ain't bad. That's a change.
No, this should be the start of some really amazing weather, and hopefully the last of the this trash that we've been dealing with.
All right, 30 seconds, Jimbo.
At the corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington offers a variety of freshly made fare, tying their roots in limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious, 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. It's May 2nd, and it's actually a beautiful day out there. Not quite as warm as we'd like, but it's heading in that direction. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Don't forget, get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Welcome aboard, Chronic Hoosier. Chronic, how's it going, man?
Doing great. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Absolutely love it. Appreciate it. It's getting into spring, and I was talking earlier, May is an incredibly busy month. And I didn't even mention graduation this weekend. It's Derby week. You got the Kentucky Derby this weekend. You've got graduation this weekend. All kinds of the Derby or the 500 at the end of the month. All kinds of stuff. It's a busy month, man.
It is indeed. It is. It's as we were talking during the break, it's probably the start of my favorite time of the year here in Bloomington. Summertime. This town is absolutely idyllic, as I was mentioning. I probably wouldn't still be here without the reprieve that is Bloomington summer, but looking forward to it and all the patios and the lake and everything that opens up basically. And I think you can probably look and understand why certain sports are so popular here, because man, this town gets really lame when you have to go indoors. So you might as well have some games to go watch. But it's gorgeous outside. We are on the cusp of IU's graduation, and then those like me with younger kids, we still got 13 more days of community school left. But we are anxiously awaiting the conclusion of all of that and the onset of summer here.
Absolutely. Have you got your Aerosmith tickets yet?
No, I think I'm passing on that one. We're gonna miss that series. We do have taking my kids to Deer Creek for the first time this year. We are going to cross a pretty major bridge in that one. We're going to go take them up to the final Dead and Company show this year up at Deer Creek. So looking forward to that, as well as some other concerts. We're going to go see Billy Strings up there. I think we got some Fish shows on the books as well, but we're going to skip the Aerosmith.
Yeah, I just saw yesterday their grand farewell tour. And they'll be stopping in Indy, but lots of that. Indiana looking to fill their roster yet, but 2 spots open and 2 big names that they are trying to land in Mbako and Dingle, which would go very, very well with what they currently have. Now, whether they get one or both of these guys is a different story, but that would give Mike Woodson potentially the best roster he's had, in my opinion, as a team.
Yeah, I ideally you'd love to see him get everybody that they're targeting. Realistically, I think Woody probably still needs at least one more addition, contributor to the roster. I think, as we've seen, you can have multiple NBA players on the team at the same time. But if you don't have that completeness, if you don't have the all the pieces, you can still find yourself coming up short. And I think for a number of reasons, from a competitive level, I think from a momentum standpoint as well. The portal has opened up an entirely new season in the college basketball schedule. It's one of those where the outcomes don't really have an immediate effect. In as much as, a guy signs, he's coming to Bloomington. That's great. You don't see the product for, 6 to 8 months. But you got to get the wins. And I think that does matter. I think it matters from a fan perspective. I think it matters for your efforts in the recruiting portal. I think, kids want to play with winners. Kids want to join winning teams. That's the reason that they've entered the portal, is they're looking for better opportunities for themselves. And in this day and age, it's a lot easier for them to see themselves in that winning position when they see other winners, jumping on board with the program. So I think it's important on a number of different levels, both practically as well as kind of perception related. Woody needs to get at least one more win, if not a couple here, to wrap things up and put themselves in a position where they can start stacking up some of the dubs that really matter. Because at the end of the day, it's what can these kids do on the floor together, and as we've seen in the past, how far can they go in the tournament? Because you can have some amazing talent, and you don't make it out of the first weekend, and you're left with a bunch of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and all the naysayers, and well, a lot of that's on the peripheral. Cumulatively, it matters. It starts to stack up. Perceptions have a funny way of becoming reality over time. So you'd love to see him keep the momentum going, keep the growth going. You got to stay on that arc because, as we've seen in the past, as we've seen in other sports on campus, momentum can be fleeting. And once it's gone, man, it's really, really tough to get back.
Mackenzie Mbako, one of the guys, mentioned visiting this weekend, as a matter of fact, the 5th and 6th, scheduled at least to visit Indiana this weekend, graduation weekend, a kind of a unique time to visit. But right now, it doesn't really matter. You just have to get them in and get them on campus. And getting them on campus has proven to be extraordinarily important to landing these guys.
Oh, no doubt. And, it's one of those things where, we like to focus on, having been here, folks that have spent any time in Bloomington, just what a wonderful asset the campus itself is. The expression, the people make the place, is extraordinarily true. But not the least of which is they've got to get a feel for the other pieces that are going to be around them. Those guys generally have an open gym. They get some rum together. They get to spend a little time off the court together and kind of feel each other out and help figure out where that fit's going to be. So, the current players, the incoming players, they all have a very, very large role in addition to all the efforts that the staff puts forward to really, dazzle these kids when they get on campus. But I think at the end of the day, that's probably the most important one for them, is just getting a chance to experience how they'd play together with their teammates, what the vibe fit's going to be like, personalities, characters, and whatnot, and figure out where their best move is going forward. So monumentally important, because you can Zoom all you want, you can send all the graphics and all that other stuff, but until you get your feet on the ground and you get a chance to experience it, that's really what's going to go a long way in order to help these kids make their decision. So you got to get them on the ground first.
And I said earlier that someone like Trey Galloway, who is a solid player for Indiana, and I'm not saying anything negative, but if Indiana wants to be elite, in my opinion, you need to have someone like Jordan Dingle, who they're trying to land from Penn, to run next to Xavier Johnson. I think that is what's going to make Indiana a team that can compete in the Big Ten for a Big Ten championship and make a Big Ten or make a run in the NCAA tournament. Otherwise, you're just kind of doing the same thing. You need a dynamic guy, a guy like Dingle. He's 6'3". He can score. He is a guy that Indiana could really use. And Trey would be a great perfect to spell him. But landing someone like this is what I'm talking about, that would really solidify this roster. And whether or not they can get that done or not, that's a different story. But they're not in a bad position, I can tell you that.
No, it would be massive for them. I think most of us will agree this has become a guards game. As much as we focus on all the big men and whatnot, it's guards that make the thing go. And I don't think you can ever have enough of them. I don't think IU's in a terrible position right now, but I think it gives kids like Gabe Cupps, for example, a whole lot more space to grow and do it naturally, rather than being thrown into the fire right off the bat. It's a steep learning curve for a lot of these kids coming in, just because you're playing against guys that sometimes they're 6 years older than you, physically more developed. Just the experience they've gained, it puts you to pretty steep disadvantage when you're first coming out. So the ability to have some depth in the backcourt and allow your guys to mature at a normal pace rather than having to be thrown into the fire. As much as the Jalen Hood Shafinos are a great feather in Woody's cap. End of the day, most guards that come through your program, they're going to be there for a couple of years, if not 4, and it's a maturation process. So you certainly want to chase those one and done, those 5 stars when you can get them. But at the end of the day, you've got to build for the future. And a great way to do that is, having a natural order to your roster progression where guys work their way into minutes rather than having to, just assume them right off the bat. Not the least of which, you want to be competitive. Rebuilding years aren't fun for anybody, and increasingly they're not accepted. They can often be terminal. You don't necessarily realize it at the time, but you look back. Well, they had that one dip, and then the bottom kind of started to fall out when we look back at it. So you certainly want to avoid that, but you would certainly love to see Dingle come. And at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's necessarily being promised minutes, but if you can increase the competitive balance in that locker room and Cook Hall, you assume that the guy who's best qualified for the job is going to get it, but having more talented players against you in practice makes everybody better. That whole iron sharpens iron thing. So the more good guards you can get, the better, man. There's no doubt about it. And I think it still remains a massive, massive hole for the Hoosiers is who's going to get the points next year? Where's the scoring going to come from? Hello?
Jim, are you with us? Hey, Chronic, I don't think that was you. I think that's Jim having some issues.
Oh, right on, man. No, my network loves to dump right when I'm on with you guys.
No, you're good. Jim's been struggling, having some issues this week, but it's about time to wrap up this segment anyway. So go ahead, and what's coming up next for you, Chronic, while we try to get reconnected with Jim?
Not a whole lot, man. Not a whole lot at all. We are, like I said earlier, we were just anxiously waiting the start of summer here. Getting ready to switch to all the kids' activities here. So this is always that time of year where you go from school to camps and practices and everything else, travel ball. So ready to get on the road, ready to get out in the sun, ready to get back out on the patios, ready not to have to fight for parking spaces, not to wait in line. All those cliches that are so incredibly true when it comes to Bloomington living in the summer. But ready to see what's next for the Hoosiers for sure.
Well, thanks, Chronic. As always, we appreciate your time. I'm glad you're looking forward to some B-Town summer. We're looking forward to hearing about it over the next several months, and we'll talk to you next week.
You'll find me on the block with the drink in hand. We'll see you guys then.
Chronic Hoosier. We'll be right back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, trying to reconnect with our boy, Jim Coyle, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. If you're
All right. Looks like Jim's trying to reconnect with us. There we go.
My computer just shut down.
You got a virus? I'm just kidding.
It's 2 days in a row. Yesterday was, I thought it was connection, but I'm starting to wonder now.
Well, at least it was decent timing with having to go to break. So I just let him finish his thought, and I asked him what was up next, and he finished up.
I'm hungry.
Me too.
When's a good time that we need to fill?
I don't understand. What do you mean? Just any open spot?
Yes, Thursday or Friday.
Let's do what about Friday at 9:50? That's usually open for somebody unique.
Perfect. AJ Moye.
Oh, speaking of which, are you gonna do the Dyer? I can't even think of his name. The guy for Rick Bozich tomorrow.
Oh yes. I need to thank you. I need to text him. Dyer Miller. You have all of his info, right?
Yeah, you sent it to me.
You might want. Yeah. Okay.
All right, here we go.
The Hospitality Group, launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Tuesday. It's May 2nd. Thanks a lot for being with us. Jim Coyle with you here as always from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Looking at some future guests. AJ Moye. Looking forward to talking to AJ. Congratulating him on his new coaching job at Valpo. Something he's been trying to get done for a while, getting back to Indiana. Although he's from Atlanta. So looking forward to that. Talked about the Australian rules football. I wanted to talk about that guy with Mike DeCourcy, but we didn't have a chance to do that. The recruiting visit this weekend of great importance. We've talked about that. Mackenzie Mbako he's a beast, man. He's that 6'8" massive guy that would be a terror on the wing. But I wonder if, Jordan Dingle would be an incredible addition. And I saw someone mention earlier, it may have been good that they missed out on some of those guys early on. Maybe it was. Things work out for a reason. Like I said, there's plenty more. And there's going to be more. But if you found someone that you really, really like, and man, Dingle could be the guy. Boy, I'm just sitting here thinking about him and Xavier running together. That's what Indiana has not had. And they've needed desperately for years now. And you would have that. You would have the guys under them learning. And Ja'Kai Newton, Gabe Cupps, CJ Gunn, Caleb Banks.
if Indiana could land those two guys, oh my gosh. They will have done, they may, I'm not going to say they're going to win they would win the portal. They land both of those guys, they're in the top 5 for damn sure. Would have to look to see who's done better. Robert thinks the best is yet to come in the portal. Jennifer says, thanks for the IU Golf Scramble shout out earlier. Absolutely. A couple times. We'll do it again. That's May 15th. We'll have the information for you. We'll try to get that up tomorrow. But that's in Jasper at Sultan's Run, which is a really nice golf course. Russell says Woodson is not going to take Indiana player just because they're from Indiana. IU is more national in recruiting now. No, that is no doubt. I mean, most of the recruits, or a lot of the recruits, are from out side of the state. Fred says, great show again. Amazing how each day the guests get better and better. I love it. Everyone wants to be on ISBR. I love that. Thank you very much, Fred. Appreciate you. Kenneth says, Dingles should be the biggest difference maker to hit the portal this year. I don't know about that. But he could be one of them. It could be one of the biggest difference makers for a particular team in Indiana, because I don't know that there's a team in need more of someone's services like Dingle, because of what that would do. That would really solidify this roster, although there's still that wing. They're still missing that guy. And boy, Mbako, I'm not going to be surprised if they get both. I haven't, no reason to say that because they haven't even been here. But again, I think that where Indiana is now, once they already have all the spots filled minus the two that they really, really need, now I think these guys are going to feel more needed because they're going to be told, we need you in this spot. And that's to Mackenzie Mbako for one, and they can look at Jordan Dingle for the other and say, we need you here. And again, I don't think Woodson tells people they're going to start or this and that and the other thing, but you don't have to. You should be able to figure it out, A, but B, if you're good enough, you shouldn't worry about that because you should have the confidence that your ability is going to be what gets you on the floor. What happened to good old competition? This being guaranteed a starting spot crap is bull. This is, yeah. If you've got a guy that has to be guaranteed a starting spot, I don't want him. That tells me he's not willing to work to secure it himself. So there's that. Philip says Texas landed Max Abmas, Caden Shredrick, and West Virginia added Kirk Creasa. Jesse Edwards and Gonzaga added Ryan Nembhard. No, not when if Indiana landed both of these guys and you add Khalil Ware to that and Sparks. Indiana is going to be a lot higher than you think. If they landed both of those guys. If they land one of them, they're going to be in great shape. Dingle's the one they truly need. They could get away with not landing Mbako. Mbako would just make this team better. But they can get away with not landing him They need to land. They have to land Jordan Diggle or someone like him. That is a spot that has to be filled on this team, or I wonder how much improvement they can make next year. Not saying that they're not going to make any. I just wonder. I think that their ability to grow will be limited if they do not get a guy like Jordan Dingle. Kenneth thinks he's better than any of those mentioned. Robert, going back to the old days. Seeing the old, wow. So in one comment, we have Rush, Kiss, and Aerosmith mentioned. And then the very next comment is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is mentioned.
I tell you what, I saw the Aerosmith tour was
that
also...
that is a swing of music from the 70s to the 2000s.
Yeah, I saw Aerosmith not only is stopping in Indianapolis for their farewell tour, but they're also coming down to Louisville. And they're on my bucket list band, so I think I'm going to snag me up a couple cheap seats if I can.
Well, you better. It's the last time around.
I know. I don't think it'll be like Kiss where they lie about it being their farewell tour and then they come back.
Everybody lies about their final farewell tour.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Aerosmith. Steven Tyler is, and this is the one thing that makes me question wanting to get tickets. He's been unwell recently, and he's had to cancel some other shows.
Well, he relapsed. He had a medical procedure, apparently. Then he relapsed into his substance abuse. So he's kind of dealt with that. So
hopefully he's got his act together for a year and a half of touring.
We'll see. We'll see. People asking who's with Kiss still. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are the only two remaining original members of Kiss. Just for those asking. So there's that. There is that. Is it break time? No, we good.
No more breaks.
John, good. Well, you can stay on here with me, John Boy. You have your Derby picks, by the way?
I don't have picks, at least based on, man, I've been losing my voice. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
People, get ready. Start looking. People, get your Derby picks. Right, anyway. We're going to have some fun. Right. We're going to have some fun on Fridays, people. So make sure you get your Derby. I hear you. So make sure, people, you get your Derby picks out and ready. Start looking at it, just perusing. We'll have some fun on Friday with that. So we'll see how that goes. But what do you got?
I've got to stop someone real quick. I'm looking at the comments. Someone just said Steven Tyler's Journey, not Aerosmith. That is not correct. And then Andy right here in the comments corrects him. Said this one out.
Man,
Steve Perry. He was getting confused with Steve Perry. That's a fair. I'll give him a pass on that one. Getting him confused. But anyway, one thing I do have about the Derby is I do have my favorite horse name, and that's the name Two Phils.
Not bad.
There's not a lot of good ones, but that's my favorite one.
I think I did see one that was my favorite name. And now I've got to pull them up. I don't have the Derby horses pulled up.
I know the favorite overall is Forte.
I did see that.
There's also a Japanese horse that apparently has some.
Here we go. All right, so you got Two Phils. Oh. I'm almost afraid to say it, but I'm looking through the rest of these first. There's King Russell, Mandarin Hero from Japan, Cyclone Mischief, Continuer from Japan. Wow, two Japanese. Oh, Continuar. Two Japanese horses in this race. One of them's a 20-1. One's 50-1, but the other one's 20-1. You've got Lord Miles, Rocket Can, Oh, the Rocket Can.
See, and I'm thinking of more along the lines of the Rocket Mortgage commercial, and they say Rocket Can.
They're both Rocket Man. Rocket Man.
Well, see, that's just your generation. That's why you're thinking like that.
That's because they probably named him after Rocket Man and changed it to Rocket Can.
I'm going to go with the latter. I think
Rocket
they just
Can.
I think they like the Rocket Mortgage logo or the jingle, and they're thinking Rocket Can. Maybe they're part owners in the Rocket Mortgage industry.
There's a third Japanese horse. Dermasotogake. Wow. Raised Cane. And that one's a 10-1. Holy smokes. Wow.
What was the one you didn't want to say? There was a name you were.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Haven't gotten there yet. There's Forte. There's Angel of Empire. There's Sun Thunder. Angel of Empire, 8-1. Forte, 3-1. Jace's Road, Disarm, Practical Move, Skinner, Mag. Is that how you say that? M-A-G-E? Mage?
Mage.
Reincarnate. That's good instead of incarnate.
Reincarnate.
Oh, reincarnate. Kings Barnes, Confidence Game, your two fills, Verifying, Hit Show, and my favorite, Tap It Trice.
I believe Tap It Trice has the second best odds in the race too.
Yes, at 5-1.
But is he at the 20 spot?
Oh, it's a Todd Pletcher horse. That means he'll lose.
Who's Bob Baffert? Is he still banned? He can't do this, can he?
You didn't say who's Bob Baffert, did you?
No, I meant who's his horse, not who he is. I'm not a dumbass.
I see. You know, that's a good question. Is he? There's not been a word about him, has there?
Because I don't think he's eligible to have a contender in this one.
Is he still banned?
I believe so. When was the incident? Was that 2 years ago at this point?
I believe so.
I can't remember how long they gave him, but we'll have to resurrect Hoof Hearted here later on in the week.
On Friday, baby. It's a Derby Day tradition from our good friend Kirk Haston. Man, I ought to get him on.
We should have had him come on to relive his.
I don't know. That'll never be redone. That's
he doesn't have to redo it, but he can sit there and listen to it.
I don't know that he'd want to, I'd understand. I know sometimes when you have fun in life and you are a little silly, you don't always want to relive those moments. They're for our enjoyment.
Michael says Baffert's still suspended until next year, so there you go.
Yeah. A federal judge denied Bob Baffert's request to lift his 2-year suspension. It was a 2-year suspension, so that's the deal. And a federal judge denied his request to lift that. That was in February. Baffert missing his second consecutive Kentucky Derby, and per a Churchill Downs rule, he had until February 28th to transfer his Derby eligible horses to other trainers in order for them to possibly run in this race. We'll have to see who all those were, which he did that last year. So one more year. A little note of irony. His wife, I used to work with at WOKY TV. Yeah, she was a morning. Jill Moss was her name. Now it's Jill Baffert, but she was the morning anchor when I was anchoring overnights at WOKY. So yeah,
anchoring. That sounds like a blast.
Oh yeah, especially when you're still in finishing school. Full load of summer school. It was a blast. Up all night. Yeah, baby. And on Tuesdays, I'd get to go cover Howard Schnellenberger with his annual weekly Tuesday press conference.
So were you there for his infamous quote about the only variable being time?
I was. That's why I can often repeat it.
That's a nice little thing to get to experience.
Yep. I'm trying to remember. I think we were at, they played in the old Cardinal Stadium, which
has been torn down.
I was going to say it's no longer even up. So that's wild.
Craziness.
1 minute.
Craziness. It's been another great one. I cannot thank you guys enough. As always, you're the most important part of this show each and every day. Don't ever forget that. For those of you that are following us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Hit the notifications and the like button. We'd appreciate that. Go to Twitter. Give me a follow at Jim Coyle, ISB. I would really appreciate that as well. Big thanks to Mike DeCourcy, as always, for joining us each and every Tuesday. Chronic Hoosier as well. And our good friend, K-Bro, Kevin Brockway, for stopping by for another visit. Looking forward to that. Tomorrow, always a great show. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic, Cal Neddenrip from the Indy Star, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com, and we'll have plenty more. Cannot thank you enough, as I said. Thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. I'm Jim Coyle. Until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.